Hello, and welcome to our show for the love of animals. I'm Darlene Pigford. All you quilt lovers better gather around.
Is that a teaser?
Yes, that's a teaser, Greg.
I'm Greg Bauer, and our little friend Wicked is here with us today. Angie decided she'd take the day off. She wanted to sleep in
She's home sleeping by the fire on a quilt, right?
Yes. But now we have a couple of upcoming shows we want to tell our viewers about. Understanding the behavior of your dog.
Ooh.
And understanding the behavior of your cat.
Double.
What do you think, Wicked? those will be some interesting ones.
Excellent topic, Greg.
But we've already teased us about, so tell us a little bit more about today, Darlene.
Well, we're going down to in Paducah, our local National Quilt Museum, and see our animal-inspired quilts. Introduce our guest, Greg.
I sure will. And to Darlene's right is Becky Glasby from the Quilt Museum, and she is the education director there. And down on the end to her right is Judy Schwender, who is the curator and registrar of the National Quilt Museum. And thank you both for coming down today to share some really neat pictures of quilts with us today.
Oh, not a problem. Thanks.
Glad both of you are here.
Absolutely. And we have a special thing with Becky's going to talk about called the School Block Challenge a little bit later, and you'll hear more about that. So,
yes.
Anyway, so you, obviously the Quilt Museum has all kinds of quilts and so on like that, and you've brought some examples with us today, Judy, so why don't we go ahead and get started?
Okay. Well, the first quilt that we have is called Barking Up the Wrong Tree. And it's by a lady named Sharon Malik from West Chicago, Illinois. And this quilt was made in 1999, but one of the things that keeps it such a popular quilt with our visitors is not only is there a dog jumping up and barking up, I guess, the wrong tree, is there's 4 other dogs hidden in the composition. So you have to look really hard at the trees, and you can see dogs kind of looking at what this barking dog is doing, and they just blend in with the trees. But it's I can't believe when I go out in the gallery and I see people in there, and then all of a sudden they'll go, "Oh, look, here's another one." Oh. And they start finding the dogs, and it's just a real popular piece with the visitors.
And do you get a prize if you can find all the dogs, extra dogs in the quilt?
No.
Oh.
No.
Has anyone, you said there were 4, has anyone ever say, I found the 5th one?
Well, the 5th one is the dog barking up the wrong tree. So there's 5 dogs total, yeah.
Okay.
And it's just fun because, you know, so many of our visitors quilt people tend to have pets, you know, so it just seems to be a very homey thing, and so it's just fun to see them relating to the quilts that way. With you know, they have a dog or they have a cat, and they see this wonderful quilt with this dog.
Okay.
And tell us more about what kind of fabric or how the quilt was made.
Oh, it's an applique quilt.
Okay.
And she uses just hundreds of different fabrics to create this quilt. But the next quilt that we have, this one, at first glance, you don't think that there's any animals on here. It's a log cabin style quilt, and it's called Community Barn Raising by a lady named Julie Prose. She's from Ottumwa, Iowa. Remember, Radar O'Reilly from MASH was from Ottumwa. And this is from 1987. If you look in the border around the quilt, you'll see on the 2 sides and on the bottom there are buggies that are being pulled by horses. This is
you're right.
Yes, community barn raising. So this is, of course, what the Amish do in their communities is they get together as a group and put a barn up. And the buggy is, of course, the mode of transportation for the Amish. So in this case, horses aren't so much pets as they're just a necessity of life.
Now you call this a log cabin quilt. Is that a special kind of quilt?
It's a special block. Each block starts with a center block, a center square, and then there's additional rectangles added to each side, and you work your way around and keep going and going, and you just build this block out, and then you can arrange all these blocks in different configurations.
Okay.
And it's the basic block style of this quilt.
Okay.
And it's in kind of dusty colors from the 1980s. The dusty colors are what you see in the 1980s.
I remember.
You remember, dusty
Yes,
pink
I
and
do.
dusty blue, yes. But I just kind of like this because in this case, the animals are kind of like a service animal.
Yes.
Because they're just, they're there to provide service for their owners.
Certainly, that's true for the Amish, that's for sure.
Yes.
And I assume this one is hand quilted.
Yes, it is. It's just very beautifully done. Just like I say, those colors. And at first glance, you think, oh, this is kind of pale, and then you realize how comforting those dusty colors are.
What's our next one, Judy?
The next one is a fun quilt that made by Ellen and Eddie called Dancing in the Light. And this entire quilt was created by a technique called thread painting. So before,
What is that?
yeah, let me explain thread
Okay.
painting. You take your quilt top and you have decorative threads, whether they're rayon or metallic or some kind
Okay.
of real shiny silk thread or all kinds of different types of threads.
Okay.
And you use your sewing machine and you literally use it to draw with on the quilt top. So all this is done before the quilt sandwich is put together and the thing is quilted. All of the images in this quilt were built up with layers and layers and layers of machine quilted thread.
Machine quilted thread. Okay.
Yeah, so it's basically you're painting with the stitch of the thread from the sewing machine.
Okay.
So-
So your streaks of color are coming from using multiple threads as you sew.
Well, multiple lines of threads.
Multiple lines.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
And it's just very, very, very fun to see how many different colors and textures.
Oh yes.
And she's got, and this is all about bugs.
Okay.
All about bugs. You've got dragonflies and there's beetles and I don't know what all in here. And one of the things we forget that bugs are animals too. So,
Oh yes.
I mean,
Some are very necessary. Yeah.
oh yeah,
To our
definitely.
environment, right?
We forget that, I think about beetles, order Coleoptera, by the way.
Okay.
One of the few things I learned in college. But beetles and how they can attack, say, dead matter
Yes.
and clean it up are very, very essential for the environment.
Okay.
And they say that just in your backyard, there's so many bugs that you wouldn't believe if you got them all together and weighed them, how much it would weigh. So
Oh my.
even though we want to
I
squish
know.
them when they're in the house, they're animals too. Maybe not pets, but
Okay.
they're animals too.
Good point. And lovely, lovely quilt.
Oh yes.
What's next?
What's next?
Number 4.
Number 4. This one is by Francelise Dawkins, who lives in New York. It's called Discovery. And so many people have fish, tropical fish or,
Goldfish. et cetera.
gee, just a guppy. Guppies are
Right.
animals too. So this is a rather small quilt, and it's the only quilt in the collection that is framed.
Oh.
This quilt depicts undersea life with fish and jellyfish and just whatever grows under the sea. And I think of so many people that do have fish as pets. And they get, and you think, well, it's not something you can curl up with at night, or have sit on your lap and keep you warm when you're watching television. But people become very wrapped up in their fish.
Yes, they do.
And it's so soothing to watch fish in an aquarium.
It is.
I mean, it's just something just very, very
It's
soothing.
very restful and relaxing.
Very restful, very relaxing. So,
And you don't even realize it's happening.
true.
So this quilt is colorful. It's done with applique and thread work, and it's just a really good depiction of things in the sea.
Well, I'll tell you, we've gotten an awfully good start here.
Yes, we
We'll
have.
Take now a short break and listen to a happy tale about Lucy, a little 6-year-old dachshund who is the pet of one of the people that helps us do this show, Tom Butler. So give a listen. I think you'll enjoy this.
This is a happy tale about Lucy Fur Robinson Butler. Lucy is a spoiled, rotten 6-year-old black and tan dachshund. She loves playing with all her toys, but being a spoiled female, Lucy is particularly fond of her purse and her high-heeled chew toys. Lucy loves to burrow under the covers of a freshly made bed after a long day of playing and eating. Lucy's parents, Tom and Gail Butler, had really good intentions when Lucy was a puppy to bring her up right and teach her to mind. However, Lucy had other ideas and quickly became the princess of the house. Lucy truly did win the doggy lottery when she came to live at her forever home with Tom and Gail.
Welcome back. We hope you enjoyed that little tale about Lucy, and she's quite a little dog.
Yes, she is.
We want to turn our attention now to our other guest today, Becky Glasby, who is Education Director. And Becky, you every year have something called a School Block Challenge through the museum. Tell us briefly about that, would you please?
Sure. It's an annual contest. It's a nationwide contest, and it's open to kids from kindergarten through 12th grade. So it's a broad scheme, and it's not limited to school groups. You know, homeschool families and scout troops, 4-H clubs, church youth groups, anything, you know, kind of a sponsoring club or organization are able to participate with their kids. And it's co-sponsored with Moda Fabrics. So they donate 3 challenge fabrics for the contest, and then each kid in their block, whether they're working individually or, you know, as a group, that they're able to incorporate those challenge fabrics into their block, but they're able to create whatever they want. There's no theme, there's no specific guidelines other than, you know, basic size for the blocks and kind of the technical details for it, but they get to create so many wonderful things that it's always exciting for us to see it.
Oh,
And
so
they don't have to be master quilters either, do they?
No, they don't.
So this is just doing art with fabric.
Yes, doing art, introducing them to fabric art, to quilting, something that a lot of students don't know that it exists, you know, for some of them. So it's a way to get them creative and working with their imaginations.
And you have different categories, I forgot, for the youngest child as opposed to teenagers, right?
Yes, we do K through 4th grade, 5th through 8th, and 9th through 12th. So they're judged with kids in their same age levels.
And there's a competition, and awards are given for the work and so on. So let's take a look at some of these examples, Becky.
Sure. This first one is called the Water Hole. It's the 2nd place winner from our K through 4th grade category. And this was a 2nd grade class out at Lone Oak Elementary, so right here local in Paducah, which is exciting. And there are about 18 to 20 students that worked on this block all together. It was part of their curriculum, what they were learning about in school. So they applied what they learned in class and then turned it into this wonderful block. We've got this big old water hole on the side of the quilt and some palm trees, and they've got elephants and giraffes and birds and fish and all sorts of wonderful animals that they've cut out and applicate onto their block. So it's very exciting.
Okay.
Lovely.
The next one.
Up next is called Under the Sea. This one is actually the one that's up is Appalachian Dreams. It's a 5th through 8th grade block from a student in Tennessee, and they've got a sun setting with some different blue colors in their sky and gorgeous work that they've done with that. And then they've got the silhouettes of a girl or a boy on their horse with another small pony and then 2 dogs kind of running around at the feet of the animals. So it's a great image kind of out on the fields, out in the plains for their block.
Now, one of the things we probably should mention quickly is that what they produce is not would not be considered a full quilt.
Correct. They're just doing the quilt top. So the seams and the edges are still kind of the raw edges.
Right.
And then we return the blocks to the students. So they're able then, a lot of them will finish it up or enter it into their local fairs and events like that.
That is neat.
It is.
Let's look at the next one.
Our next block is called Chocolate Spot. It's a K through 4th grade block, again from Kentucky. And this one's just a sweet little block. We've got a chocolate brown kind of spotted puppy, the silhouette that they've applicated.
Precious.
It is. It's so wonderful to see how the kids take what they have, their own pets, their own inspiration, and turn it into such wonderful blocks.
And who did this one?
This one, I don't have a name on it. It is a local Kentucky.
Local Kentucky, okay.
From there. So
Well, it is precious.
isn't it? Our next one is called Under the Sea. And this was our 3rd place winner from the K through 4th grade category. They're from Illinois, so we've got some of the local states, surrounding states represented in our winners this year. And this was just, it's a wonderful block. It's that undersea life. They've got octopus and kissing fish and a seahorse and sea turtles swimming around that they've taken and cut out of bright fabrics to applique down. They also have an anchor that's dropping into the scene, and along the ocean floor they have a little snail and a treasure chest. So they've gotten really creative and imaginative with what might be seen down there under the water.
Now, how much help can the kids get, say, from adults on these
They're
blocks?
allowed help. Some teachers or family members who are quilters, or some groups will ask their local quilt guilds or quilters that they know of to help teach them the skills. But we ask that the students do the work themselves, whether by hand or machine, and they turn it out and they produce wonderful work, even for the young students as well.
You can tell from these examples.
Yes, they're very good.
Okay.
The next one up is called Basket of Kittens, and it's just so adorable. It's so precious. It's won an honorable mention this year. It's from the middle school category, and they've got this pieced basket with a ball of yarn at the bottom and this little white kitten just popping over the top, like she's ready to hop out and start knocking that ball of yarn around as they go. And this block is set on point, so it's kind of looks like a diamond shape compared to just the straight squares that most of the students send. So they've angled their block and really made it stand out from the rest of them.
Okay.
Well, that's precious also. I'll take the doggy and the kitty home.
Yes.
And
Our next one up is maybe a little less precious. It's not a dog or a cat. It's called.
Well, I think they're all. I think they're all great and precious. So.
They are. This one is again. It's called Creepy Crawly. It's a spider that's dropping down from a web up in the corner. So it's a little bit different. But as Judy had mentioned with some of our quilts, they're still animals and they're still just as fun. This was 2nd place winner from Graves County High School in our 9th through 12th category. So they made it really artistic. They've got a nice large spider on there in the black and the web in the corner, and it just really stands out. It really grabs your eye as you walk by it. So it's really fun to see how people, interact and see these blocks and go, "Oh, hey, that's a spider on there." It's not what they were expecting, but it's wonderful.
Okay.
We enjoy it a lot.
Next.
This one I love. I know Judy likes this one too. It's called Armadillo. And you wouldn't normally think an armadillo as a pet, or when you think animals, that's maybe not the first one that comes to mind. But it's a fantastic block. It's from a student out in Ohio. And they've really made this one kind of 3D. There's some cactus with little yo-yo quilt flowers that are added onto it. And for the clouds in the sky, they used cotton balls that they have stitched down to their fabric, so they're allowed, to embellish and add things that they find around the house. And their armadillo is actually 2 different fabrics, and one of them is like a corduroy texture, so it's giving it a little bit of that shell-like texture for the
kind of striped.
that stripe and kind of that shell kind of quality to the armadillo, and it's just fantastic.
That's pretty smart.
And
I think so.
our next one.
Our next one is called Max the Dog. And this one is wonderful. It's a face silhouette of a dog. It's the student's pet that they took a photo of and then kind of turned their photo into a black and white image and recreated that into the fabric. So they've got this dog holding a bone in its mouth. And again, this one kind of jumps out at you when you look at all the blocks on display, that, it's just this great striking face that pops out and they get to see it.
What materials? Do you happen to remember?
This one's, it's mostly cotton fabrics. I don't think they've added any major embellishments to it, but most of them are the challenge fabrics that they're provided, and they're allowed to mix in other fabrics if they would like, other elements and things to go with their blocks.
And I think we have, a couple more?
A couple more. This one is called Down on the Farm. And this is an applique scene that is just very well done. It's very precise. We've got a farmhouse barn out in the fields. We have a tree with a tire swing hanging on it. There's like a little stream or a pond with ducks and the little baby ducklings and a couple horses sitting out by the water, and a big sun kind of rising up over the horizon. So someone sat down and really took a good look at how to incorporate this perspective and the different hills and the right colors, to get that scene in there to make them look as very realistic. It's from the middle school category and from a student out in California.
Oh.
So we get blocks from all across the country. This year we had 17 different states represented.
Oh.
That's great.
And the goal is to get all 50.
The goal is to get all
And
50
as
at
many
some point.
international ones
And
as
many
we can.
internationals as possible.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Up next, we have a nice cardinal bird out in a little nest. It's called the Window. Again, it's the middle school group from Illinois. And this one they've really worked a lot in with their background fabric. Has little flowers kind of dancing around in the background there, and just this nice bright red cardinal that's sitting out there. They've made the nest a little bit 3D using some kind of raffia straw that it's been stitched down, so it really gives you, you know, a 3D look that you're looking out the window into a bird's nest at your house.
Okay.
So we good.
Well, that concludes our list of those, I think, doesn't it? And we're going to take a short break and take a look at another happy tale. And when we come back, we are going to tell our viewers how the kids can enter the School Block Challenge.
Sounds good.
This little happy tale is about, again, Lucy.
Who's Lucy?
This is a cat, John Walker, who also helps with the show. His parents have this wonderful cat, and John doesn't like too well. But I think you'll enjoy this little happy tale.
Lucy is a 2-year-old American Shorthair. She was named after Lucille Ball and has the mischievous personality to match. Lucy, along with 5 other kittens, were born in an old charcoal grill in my sister's detached garage. No one knew they were in there until my brother-in-law stumbled upon them preparing to throw the grill away. He took the kittens indoors and fed and cared for them. However, 6 kittens proved to be too many to handle. Luckily, Lucy's brothers and sisters were adopted by loving families. My sister and brother-in-law kept 2 of the kittens while my father picked Lucy. When she's not busy catching spiders and mice, Lucy spends most of her days watching birds and other cats from the sunroom window. She isn't the friendliest cat I've ever known, but she definitely pulls her own weight and keeps us on our toes.
We think you have enjoyed that little one about the cat Lucy, and John's folks are real happy with it, even though John's not too happy with the cat.
But he's getting happy.
Yes, he's getting there anyway. Well, we've been talking with, in our last segment, with Becky Glasby of the education, she's Director of Education at the National Quilt Museum. And Becky,
Here in Paducah, Kentucky.
right, and how can the folks enter the School Block Challenge? What do they have to do?
They can visit our website and look up information under the contest tab that's across the top, or by calling the museum, asking about the contest in itself, and kind of get ready for it. The fabric's ready in the fall, and then the contest, you know, kind of kicks into gear by August, September.
Okay.
And that would be a good time for us to tell everyone where the National Quilt Museum is located in Paducah, and the phone number and the website. So, Judy, where are you located?
We're at 215 Jefferson Street. In
Paducah, Kentucky, right?
Paducah, Kentucky, downtown Paducah.
Okay.
And our phone number is 270-442-8856.
Okay.
And we have a great website,
Okay.
www.quiltmuseum.org.
Okay, and all the lots of examples of what like the ones we've seen today, and lots of others can be viewed up there by anyone who goes up there and looks at it. Then.
Oh yeah, and if you can't make it to the Quilt Museum, our entire collection is
online.
Is online at the Quilt at the Quilt Index, www.quiltindex.org.
Ooh, that is great. And you also have a great gift shop too.
Oh yeah.
Oh yes.
Oh yes.
Well, Judy, let's return to you because you brought us some other quilts. Judy Schwender, who's the curator and registrar at the National Quilt Museum, and if you've missed the early part of this, but Judy, what other quilts did you bring for us today?
Well, one thing that I think it's the #1 pastime of people in the United States is bird watching.
Is it?
I've heard that it's big, really big. And I don't know about anyone else, but I look for those birds in the spring.
Oh yeah. Yes.
I'm ready, you know.
I
And
listen for them too.
Listen
Yes.
for them too. Oh yeah. And this quilt is called Feathered Beauties. It's by Pamela Humphreys of Larkspur, Colorado. It was made in 2005. And it's almost a birder book, you know, one of those books that a birder would take with them when they're out looking at birds to look up what bird they're looking at. There's bluebirds and blue jays and cardinals, and I can't believe how detailed Pamela was able to make these birds look.
That's fantastic.
It's all composed. This is a bed-sized quilt, and each bird is each little detail in the bird is appliqued onto the quilt top. And applique is where you cut out a piece of fabric, turn the edges under in most cases, lay it down, and then invisibly stitch it in place. And some of these birds have hundreds of fabrics in each
Hundreds?
in each bird.
Oh,
Almost
my
every
word.
feather is delineated.
Oh.
And so it's just quite a detailed quilt.
Okay.
It's lovely.
What's next, Judy?
Oh, this is, I'm not supposed to have favorites. That's a no-no. But every time I put this in the gallery, it makes me smile. This is called Goto and Friends.
Oh.
It's by Barbara Barber
Yes.
of Hants, England, and it's from 1995, but it looks like it was just made yesterday. It's on the upper, kind of at the 1 o'clock position, there's a goat pictured. Well, this is Goto. And Barbara, when she would take a walk down her lane, she would see all these different animals that are pictured in this quilt on
What a
on
lovely
her,
theme.
on her little travels. There's a cat, there's a donkey, and a rabbit, and a squirrel, a whippet, and a little doe, and a fox. And this is all done on the machine. It's all machine appliqued and reverse machine appliqued, and each one, here again, so much detail work.
It's gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous.
Okay, Judy, what do we have now?
Then.
One more.
Well, how many of you have? I have to say, how many of you have ever heard a peacock call? Have you ever heard a peacock call?
No, I've seen.
can't say I
We
have.
talk about it strutting, but never
The
the
strutting
colors,
and the fan
but
goes out
never
the tail.
about the sound that it would make.
Well, this is called Paisley Peacock by Pat Hawley of Ann Arbor, Michigan. This was last year's Best of Show winner. And
Okay.
here again, peacocks are animals too, but they make an unearthly sound that sounds like a baby crying.
I didn't know that.
Oh, when a peacock calls, you just go, "What's wrong with the baby?" It just sounds like a baby's in trouble. And I was trying to count all the little there's peacocks that are just an inch tall, all the way up to the large peacock on the center, and there's probably 20 or 30 peacocks on this quilt.
Well, I'll tell you,
Wow.
we have just had a
We
rapid
never have enough time. I mean, we're at the end.
a rapid fire visit with all these quilts. But what our viewers can do is come down to our National Quilt Museum, and you know how to get here now.
That's right.
Yes.
And Judy and Becky, we want to thank you two so much for coming by and sharing all these quilts with us today. And this has just been I get fascinated more and more every time I see these things, the beautiful artwork and intricate things that they do. So, as we say, we're out of time for today, but in closing, Darlene, we want our viewers to remember what we say every time. Give your pet a little extra love today and every day. See you next time.
Bye.